Yay, wonderful. Well, welcome. We are here for advanced psychic protection. So I do have a presentation to share. So I'm going to engage that now. Maybe actually I'll hold off for a moment. So I am so happy to be here and excited to do my second year of presenting here at the Puget Sound Pagan Pride event. And it's kind of fun because this year is a bit of a follow-up to last year. Last year we did psychic protection, and this year we're doing advanced psychic hygiene. So I am excited to share this information with you all. I want to start with mentioning that I am on unceded Salish Sea, Skokomish, Chehalis tribal lands. And that is important to acknowledge that I am on lands that were taken from the indigenous people of this area as a land acknowledgement. That is something that we do with all the workshops that I teach, because I think it's really important to bring awareness so that we can move forward with possibilities for reconciliation. So my name is Karen Olson, and I have been a teacher for about 25 years. I am a priestess and a ceremonialist and a healer. So I do ceremonies for folks, like healing ceremonies, and also rites of passage like weddings and baby namings and funerals and things like that. As well as I help people deepen their spiritual connection and practices. So I do mentoring as well, spiritual mentoring. And I also do intuitive work. I am a psychic medium as well. So I recently got my master's in eco-psychology, which has been really what a gift to be able to spend a couple years diving deeply into how our relationship with nature frames our psychological perspectives, which I think is a very pagan intersectional point. And so that has been really amazing. And one of the fruits of that work was that I also run a mystery school. It's called Moonhill Mystery School. And we teach a variety of classes, and mostly we'll be doing online classes this fall. But I'm hoping next spring we'll go back to being able to do some outside in-person classes as well. So that's a little bit about who I am. And I have a screen to share with you. So I'm going to do that. There we are. So if you would like more information about Moonhill Mystery School, you can go to my website for that. Very excited to be here. I wanted to start out with a little bit of a dialogue about the difference between hygiene and protection. So I think of hygiene as a way to kind of using practices on a daily basis that navigate our corporal experience, our spiritual beings being in a corporal body. And this also is a way to navigate some of the stresses of modern living. So we are bombarded with a lot of information, and we don't really acknowledge that there's a lot of information coming in that isn't kind of defined by science, like the psychic information is really not defined by science and isn't really acknowledged by a lot of our kind of wellness practices. And so psychic hygiene is a way to do self-care. So the other aspect of psychic protection, I think of that as kind of being using that in a particular situation, like in a situational space and time. We can also use psychic protection for a particular container. So that could be a circle, like when you're casting a circle, you're basically creating a psychically protected space. You can also use this for a room or for a home or for a piece of property, also for your body, so any kind of particular container, I think of using psychic protection in that way. We could also use this to shield us from outside influences. So if you are a sensitive person, there is a particular acronym called HSP, which is highly sensitive person, or someone who's an empath, or someone who is psychic. There can be a lot of outside information that you're receiving on a regular basis. And it's nice to be able to kind of create a space where you can really filter that to some degree. It can help you not feel so overwhelmed or exhausted or really taxed in some more intense ways. So I think the work of psychic hygiene is soul care. So this is a way that we care for our souls and our spirits. I had mentioned earlier, it's about self-care, but it's also soul care, which is this kind of, again, an aspect that we don't necessarily get a lot of support in our current world for, that the psychic work isn't acknowledged in the same way. So navigating it can be a little bit tricky if you don't feel supported by your society or community, or even from a resource perspective. So I wanted to, because this is an advanced workshop, I wanted to get a little feedback and information from you all about what things that you are currently doing, and what ways are you navigating your own experience of psychic protection right now. So the first question I have for everyone is, what are your personal psychic protection or hygiene practices? And so if you want to put some into the chat box about what are some of your practices that you like to employ, that would be great. If you have pen and paper and you want to make some notes, that would be awesome too, to just think about what ways that you how are you engaging with this kind of work? Is this, are there things that you're doing for psychic hygiene that may look to someone else not like psychic hygiene? So one of the messages is, I transmute energy that's weighing me down on a daily basis. That is awesome. Another one is meditation. That is also great. Oh, and we have one up here about incense. Tibetan bells, when I cannot use incense. That's great. Awesome. Meditation, grounding, and centering. Fabulous. Drumming. Wonderful. Those are all great practices. So as you're thinking about those practices that you are currently employing, am curious to know, how frequently are you doing this? Like one person had mentioned that they do something daily. How frequently are you employing your practices? And how do these how do you know these practices are working? Like, what is some of the feedback that you get from your own body or from your own energetic assessment? What things are signals to you that your current practices are working for you? Again, if you want to put those in the chat, I can read them so that the folks that watch this later time travel to visit us in the future through the YouTube channel can also get this information as well. So someone says release and hope. Excellent. So some of the ways that you might notice that these practices are working. Someone says, I use my shower daily to either cleanse or protect at the start or cleanse and heal at the end. I love using the water in particular for transformational hygiene, psychic hygiene work. That's fabulous. So some of the ways that you would maybe know that your practices are working is that you may feel more relaxed. You might feel less stress. You might feel less heavy, weighed down. Sometimes people, if they're working in an environment that is particularly psychically active, it can be very draining, exhausting. And so when you have those things, when you're employing those practices that are effective, then you can make sure you can feel the difference by maybe your energy level if you don't feel so exhausted. So another person says, I try to employ them daily, but sometimes I fall off the horse. I know they are working when I feel calm throughout the day and less anxious and reactive. Perfect. That's excellent example of how you know when it's working and when it's not working. And I also want to say that I love that you said sometimes I fell off the horse, because I find this coming up a lot in the spiritual mentoring that I do with folks and helping them create practices and delving deeper into their own personal psychic work or pagan practices. One of the things I hear from people quite often is, "Oh, I've fallen off the horse, or I've just let go of all my practices, or I haven't done anything spiritual for some period of time." And people often say that with like a lot of shame or guilt, or feeling kind of disappointed and upset with themselves. But I want to say that I believe practices are much more cyclical. So I think of them as much more spiral in nature. With our current structure of our society is that we are in an industrial growth kind of framework for our society. So many times we see these graphs that go up like this, as though everything is always on the increase. We are always getting better and better and better and better and better. And that is not actually how people, it's not actually how people work. So we humans, we are part of nature. We are an expression of nature. And what is one of the major things we see in most environments in nature, which is the cyclical pattern of things, right? And in particular, we see the seasons, the 4 seasons. So we see a spring, a summer, a fall, and a winter. And within that spring, summer, fall, and winter, which is a major aspect of my personal practices, is seasonal work. We see the kind of birth of spring, the excitement and hard work of summer, the kind of wind down and hard work of fall, and then the quiet fallow period of winter. And I really feel as though all of our practices have more of that shape, at least for me. I am personally someone who I do really well on my personal stretching routine or my eating right or whatever, and then something happens that disrupts the cycle that I built, and then everything falls apart, and then I have to reassemble it again. Now, in that reassembly, I find that I let go of some things. Like maybe I decide to, as I readjust my diet again, maybe this time I let go of some aspect of my diet that I had thought was important before. So when everything falls apart and then you have to regather it back up again, that is an opportunity to presence your practices in the now, as opposed to that place of 10 years ago when you started doing this work, whatever that might be, or 10 months ago, or 10 days ago, whatever the transition period is. So I just want to, thank you, Kay, for bringing that in, because that was so, it's very top of mind for me right now, this idea that we are more cyclical and spiral in nature. And the most important thing is when everything falls apart, that you step back into it again, into the parts that nourish you, into the parts that feel as though they are supporting you. So let's see. Oh, yay. Kathy says that's reassuring to hear. I'm so glad to hear that, because I have so many people that I work with that, come to me, kind of feeling bad that they haven't done anything for a period of time. And I always tell them the fallow periods are essential. That's where we get to kind of let everything sit and gestate a little bit. We need those digestive moments to be able to figure out what our next step is. So I'm really glad to hear that. Yes, and Kay says, yes, my practice changes when I re-engage. I choose what is working for me and I leave behind what isn't anymore. Yes, exactly. That's so perfect. So the next question here is, what signals you to perform your practices? So again, with that idea that there may be some things that you do every day. You may wear, like I have my necklaces on today. You may wear jewelry every day that is part of your psychic hygiene practices, but you may not smoke cleanse yourself every day, or you may not smoke cleanse your space every day. So what signals do you notice that activate your desire to employ some psychic hygiene practices or psychic protective practices? So Lawrence says, I might have 5 necklaces I wear every day. Yes, that's so great. So Kay says, rising anxiety. Yep. When my big feelings take over, says Kaylin. That is great. Those are exactly it. I love that you guys are really tapping on the emotional impacts of kind of psychic overwhelm if we're getting too much information or things are really intense. Absolutely. Those are great signals to employ maybe additional practices. So let's see. What else? How do you know which practices to employ? So that's another question. And also Kathy mentions of those feeling scattered or that I want to disengage. Oh, what a great signal. What a great signal, because we all feel that. We all feel that, like, I just want to check out. I don't want to be present now. And sometimes that's what's needed, right? Sometimes we just need to get super quiet or get super out of our own way. But what if we acknowledge that as a signal of like, oh my goodness, I need to do some care. I need to do some psychic care, some psychic hygiene. So the next question is, how do you know which practice to employ? So there is a wide variety of psychic hygiene practices, which we're going to go through some ideas and talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But because this is an advanced workshop, I wanted to hear from you all, because we have multiple layers of working with psychic protection, this is such a big subject. I love talking about this. And in fact, doing this lecture, preparing for this lecture, I have been inspired to do a longer format. So we have about an hour today. And but I'm going to be offering a longer format of this class, and then also my basic psychic hygiene class as well, so that we can kind of dig a little bit deeper into this work. But some of the ways that you might know which to employ is, what are you actually protecting? And so let's talk about that next. So what things might be part of your psychic protection or your psychic hygiene? So I like to think about it as people, places, and thoughts. So, and the thoughts are kind of also would include the ethereal, you know. So when we talk about psychically protecting people, I think of ourselves or even our families. So there may be certain practices that you employ that help with self-protection. So let's say you are headed to your in-laws' house and you don't have a great relationship with that side of the family, and you want to not feel the kind of intensity of other people's thoughts, but also kind of maybe even personal attack on you. And so there's some things that you can do. Like Lawrence said, you know, wearing your protective necklaces can be really helpful. There are specific stones that have specific actions in particular. And maybe part of that is being grounded, you know. And Kay says, protecting people, but also the fur and feather family as well, which I like too. Thank you for including them. Some of the stones that you might wear, you know, you could wear tourmaline, which is really popular, and a lot of people know about that stone. And it is a dark black stone that can be really helpful for grounding, because that, I will say, let me just say this right now. If you only used one psychic hygiene tool, I would say grounding is your one tool that I would recommend. The other kind of one tool that I really love is also meditation. I am a strong advocate of meditation, and creating that quiet mind is an incredibly helpful tool to be able to calm the kind of chatter that can happen, that also creates some unrest in us, you know, when we have that like monkey mind, you know, chattering away about all the things that need to be done. That also impacts our psychic body. So back to the people. So wearing necklaces is a way, you know, this shawl that I'm wearing is a magical tool for me. So this is a shawl that I wear when I'm teaching. And so it has some charms attached to it. It has protection attached to it. It is a tool that I use when I am doing a specific task. So that is a way to employ protection to people. When we're talking about places, when we're talking about protecting places, one of my favorite things to use, tools to use, is smoke cleansing, which some people refer to as smudging. And we had a great workshop earlier today with Lene Reed. And if you didn't catch that, I totally recommend that you go back and take a listen. She spoke about smudging and appropriately using that particular tool. And so I refer to it as smoke cleansing, because smudging is a specific practice used by Pacific Northwest Native American Folks, I'm not sure if it's used across the nation. I'm more aware of this particular area. But smoke cleansing is used throughout multiple cultures around the world by almost everybody uses smoke cleansing. So it's using plant material that you catch on fire to specifically use the smoke of that fire or of smoldering to clear and cleanse from a spiritual and psychic perspective. So smoke clearing is one of my favorite tools to use in places. And I will also take a moment here to mention that there are many plants that can be used for smoke cleansing, and white sage is being over harvested. So I highly recommend that you consider using another plant for that particular task. My three favorite plants are lavender, rosemary, and mugwort. So I love to use those particular plants for smoke cleansing. And you can obviously also smoke cleanse your body, or, the body of your friends. This is often done as people enter into sacred circle. We use smoke to clear away the kind of psychic debris that gets kind of attached to our ethereal bodies. So that is another thing that kind of happens, is that we get kind of like junk tagged on to us, like back to that, like going to your in-laws and, maybe you don't have a great relationship with them. Their kind of ideals and their judgment about you kind of gets like globbed onto you. And that's why you feel kind of heavy and clunky and yucky when you leave there. That environment is because that junk kind of gets attached to you. So you can release that and clear that and let that go when you leave that environment. So clearing our thoughts, again, that's like that monkey mind, that kind of like, that part of you that's super judgmental about yourself. I also think of the thoughts as being kind of connected to the ethereal world and the spirit world. So the spirit world being ancestors, being spirit guides, being entities that don't have corporeal bodies. So there are there is many non-corporeal beings than there are species of animals, in my opinion. There are a ton of different spirit incarnations that are navigating this world just like us. And so when we're doing things like meditating and quieting our mind, we're also inhabiting our entire beings. So one of the things that I also notice happens to some people is that we can leave parts of us behind. So when you are, it's about being present, right? So when you are present, you are fully embodied. And so a lot of times in this crazy world, we are asked to do a lot of different things, right? So while you are writing an email, you might also be listening to a podcast, and you might also have dinner on the stove, or making a pot of tea, or watering the garden, or, there's often multiple things happening at the same time. Now, I will also mention that, current research says that you cannot multitask. You can only do one thing at a time. Now, there can be multiple things that you are managing and that are happening at the same time, but you're present for one thing at a time. When that happens, I feel like a piece of our soul gets left to attend the tea that's getting made in the kitchen, and a little piece of our soul gets left to attend the watering the garden, and a little piece of our soul gets left to maybe, making sure that the that once the dryer bell goes off, we're able to fold those clothes, or whatever it is that you're juggling, that those actually kind of steal a little piece of you away. And so the act of becoming present and becoming fully embodied through things like meditation can be incredibly empowering and powerful, because when you call yourself back into your vessel, into the home of your body, you bring the fullness of your soul back to you, then you are a much more powerful being. You are more able to navigate certain situations. You have more resilience. You have more capacity to be able to transition from one place to another with more ease and grace, when you are completely embodied, and that you are navigating as that you're not so spread out. You're not in so many places. So let's talk about some first aid, some daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonal hygiene and protection practices. I think of first aid as those situations where like something happens and someone like energy vomits on you, and you're like, oh my God, yes, that just happened. Ugh. And you need to release that or navigate that. So I think of the first aid situation as being like something happened and you need to react to it quickly. Certainly there's situations where, something happens with a coworker at work and you can't really do anything until you get home. That still could be a first aid situation. And I think there's times when people have first aid situations that they don't navigate in a timely manner, and that could have negative effects on you. It could weigh you down. It could make you have less access to your energy reserves. So this is some of the practices that I like to employ for first aid. Like I had mentioned before, smoke cleansing is a wonderful tool. We can't necessarily step out from a work environment and go to the parking lot and smoke cleanse. So that may not be practical in a lot of ways. And some of these things you can have on hand and available to you if something like this happens. So crystals. So again, like having a crystal on your desk or even on your person. I know many of my dear beloved friends, have a plethora of crystals in their underclothes, that they carry around with them as part of their protective strategies. Scented sprays, and I personally only work with essential oils, but particularly scented sprays that have flower essences in them can be particularly helpful. Flower essences work on our ethereal body, on our energy system. They're an energy medicine in particular. And so I really love to use those. And there's a local company here in Olympia that is called Light Blossoms, and they have a variety of really beautifully essential oil and flower essence sprays. And I totally recommend that people use their, or let me see, how do I want to say that? Go to your local herb shop or your local witchy store to buy these things as much as you can, because those small businesses really need our support. And here in Olympia, we have a store called Radiance Herbs and Massage, and they carry the Light Blossom spray, and they're probably available in other stores as well. So highly recommend that. I'm using plant medicine. So, drinking a cup of tea that has maybe some root plants in it, or even bark plants like cinnamon bark, for instance, to help protect and clear your energy field can be really helpful. There's a wide variety of ways of using plant medicine. Energy sweeping. Now, you noticed when I told you that first example of, someone psychically vomits on you, the first thing you want to do is this, and that is actually energy sweeping. So you can just do this with your hands. You do not need any tools. You don't have to buy anything. But I encourage you, if you're in a space where you can do this, I recommend that you stand up right now and that you energy sweep yourself. Go ahead, and while I'm talking about these next options, go through your whole body and sweep off the energy that is attached to you, and do that with your hands all over your skin. And then if you're comfortable, make a little post in the chat box about how you might feel differently, and maybe share with us if that makes a difference in your body and how you feel. Sound energy clearing. So this can be done with a singing bowl, which are really popular right now. You can also use bells. Oh my gosh, in my earliest years, because I've been doing this for more than 25 years, so probably 30 or 35 years ago, when I didn't know that my practices were pagan, I used to use pots and pans at the transitions of the seasons to clear my space. Now, that was not very pleasant, those loud banging noises. But what I was doing was energy clearing the space. Now, certainly a sweet sounding bell or a Tibetan singing bowl would be much more pleasurable, but it's also doing a similar thing. So again, also sound healing is vibration, right? So humming. You can hum a favorite chant. So like, again, someone kind of like, does a little vomit on you, or whatever happens that you feel like you have been impacted by some outside force. Humming is a great way to clear your space, clear your body. Making that, it can be a chant. You can hum a favorite chant, or you can just hum. Just making that noise actually shifts the energy in our body. In fact, me just doing that right now, I feel slightly more grounded. So if you're finished sweeping your body and you feel that kind of change in your system, take a moment now to hum, and just hum a few notes and feel how that grounds your body. And then that leads me to the next thing, grounding. That is such an important practice, and something that could be really helpful to employ in a lot of circumstances. Yes, and Kay mentions that she does a lot of humming. You're nurturing your nervous system and your energy body when you do that. Yes, it helps quiet inner thoughts. Absolutely. Yes. So grounding practices, whatever your grounding practices are, taking your shoes off, setting your feet on the ground, imagining those roots going deep into the earth, whatever it takes for you to be grounded, that also, it instantaneously clears your energetic field. Just taking deep breaths. I mean, how often does that just happen naturally? When someone says something that's upsetting or frustrating, that's one of the first things that we do. As you're exhaling out, releasing that which is, causing you discomfort, breathing that out. Actually shaking it off. This is a technique that I often use, where I will actually jump up and down and particularly make my heels hit hard on the ground when I'm jumping up and down, to literally shake off the energetic debris that is attached to my corporeal body. So that can be really helpful, particularly in a first aid situation. Engaging with your spirit helpers to release attachments. So this is about like calling in your helpers, like, let me not be so aggravated by this person's actions, or please protect me from this, spiritual entity that I feel like is in too close to my space, or is trying to get my attention and I am not interested. Please, call in your helpers to assist with that. Singing chants. Also, another amazing way to create sacred space and also create an environment that is clear energetically. Singing chants makes a huge difference. All right, so the next piece we have is daily practices. So I am a very strong advocate of daily practices, and that I really feel like it is important for people to consider, what are the things that you're doing on a very frequent, on a consistent, in a consistent way that builds upon the others. So builds upon the practices, builds upon your strengthening your auric field, you're having a strong protection around you, a clear space so that you can do what you want to do. So some of daily practices that might work for you is incantations recited as you transition your day. So this could be like, I recently had one of my co-teachers mention that when she puts on her mascara in the morning, she says to her, she does an incantation that says, may I see all of the things that are important for me to see today. May I clearly understand what I'm seeing. So she has this kind of ritual that she does every time she puts on her mascara. When I am doing body work, because I am also a licensed massage therapist, when I'm doing body work, as I am finishing with each of my clients, I do a little release incantation that the work I have done is complete and I am no longer connected to this person, so that I can sever my tie that gets created when I'm doing this really very intricate work of connecting with people's bodies and listening to the stories their body is telling me, so that I can help them release pain and create healing for themselves. Brushing your clothes before you enter your home at the end of the day. One of my favorite things is right now, this time of year, and these are, I think I've seen this at Trader Joe's, there are these sweet little brooms that you can find that are small, like little hand brooms. And I always love to pick those up and give them as gifts, because they are the most amazing psychic clearing tool that you can use. You could leave it outside your door. So when you arrive at home, you can take that little broom off and literally sweep the shit of your day off of you. You can let it go on the porch. You don't have to bring that into your house. I love those little brooms. I think they are so fun for that particular tool. Yes, Kay says she has one of those little brooms, and I love them. They're fabulous gifts to give to your friends that are aware of using these kinds of things, particularly young people. Like, I love to give that gift to particularly like a teenager that is just starting to understand that she has psychic powers or has the ability to hear from the other world and needs to create some of those boundaries. I love to give that as a gift or a tool. So Lawrence says, I have a ritual table with stones and moon water and a bell on the outside. Perfect. That's a great example. Thank you, Lawrence, for mentioning that. That's a great way to transition your day. energy sweeping, like I had mentioned, songs of protection. So that could be just even just invoking earth, air, fire, water. You know, there's some amazing chants out there, like using that as a grounding tool, as a protective tool. I'm wearing protection jewelry, crystals, plant medicine, protective body oils. Oh my God, protective body oils. I should do a whole class on this because I love creating protective body oils. So what I mean by this is I like to use a body oil after I shower. And so I have crystals in my oil that are part of my protective shield. And then I use specific plant medicine, both infused plant oils and essential oils, as part of this protective shield that I then put on my body. I always put it on my heart. I'm always protecting my heart. And then I use that every time I take a shower to kind of seal my protection and create just another layer of a protective film, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Lawrence. Let's see. Protective body oils, using magical symbols and energy strengthening practices. I'm sure you all, as being an advanced workshop, you know tons of magical symbols and sigils that you can draw on your body or in the air as part of a protective practice. So this is an image of some of my necklaces that I commonly wear as part of the ways of protective sources. You notice that round pendant, it happens to be an obsidian, sheen obsidian, which is very mirror-like. It's right over my heart. Again, that is one of the areas that I protect. So let's see what we have. Yes, lots of sigils, skin safe markers. Yes, totally. And tattoos. Absolutely. Yep. Those are definitely all elements of great protection. So again, as we're looking at practices, going to the monthly level, using the full and the new moons as part of your practice, like creating moon water, charging you tools in moonlighting and in the moonlight, clearing the spaces that get cluttered, cutting energy cords to people that are weighing you down or creating more tug or pull on your energy body. Making sure that you are out of situations that drain your energy. Doing sweats. So this is something that you could do. Like, I am so excited. I just recently got a sauna, and I'm really looking forward to using sweats as part of my energetic clearing practices. Healing sessions with a practitioner can be incredibly helpful. Putting out fresh flowers can be part of your energy space maintenance. Like, putting fresh flowers, they have a vibrational quality to them. They lend that vibrational quality to the area in which you're living. And then seasonal practices, which of course are definitely part of my personal practices, as I really love working with the seasons, being very mindful of the transition between fall and winter and spring and summer and all of those elements. And I also work with the Celtic calendar and seasonal practices in that way as well. So deep cleaning spaces with herbal waters, sound healing, energy clearing, reactivating boundary lines by offerings to land spirits. This is something that I do on a very regular basis. Sweats and showers, like we mentioned earlier. Clear large space, like the living spaces and offices. So in the fall, I like to deep clean the pantry and the kitchen. In the winter, I clear the linen closets, underneath the bathroom sink and underneath the kitchen sink. So this is the dark places in the winter, is where I try to clear those places out. Clear out old clothes in the spring. and and clearing out outdoor spaces in the summer. So what do I offer to land spirits? Oh my gosh, that needs to be a whole nother class. So land spirits, I often make offerings of food, and sometimes I'll make libation offerings, which would be like if we had wine with dinner, I might offer some wine, something that is valuable. So like if I make a dinner that is really that is really delicious and important to me, I would make that as an offering. Seeds and nuts I make as an offering on a fairly regular basis as well. Flowers sometimes. Lawrence recommends apples. Absolutely, that's a great land offering for sure, especially in this area. So I have a few minutes for questions, if anybody has any questions. These are a couple classes that I have coming up starting in October, and then there's more information at the mystery school. So if anybody has any questions, Lawrence can take over on how we do that, if there's a special way that...
No, we can. You're all welcome to come off mute and ask questions while we wrap up in the last few minutes. This was super practical.
Oh, yay!
About it the most. That's my opinion.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Lawrence. That's great. Yeah, if anybody else has any other bits and pieces, we would be happy to chat about those. Maybe I'll just mention one more thing. I have a special happening in October where I am doing $25 off an hour session if you want to see me for that kind of work as well. But the classes are really my favorite thing to do. And each of these classes are once a month for 9 months. And it's nice because a community gets created and we get to kind of check back in with each other once a month and see how things are going. And that's when I often see those things about people, saying like, oh, I didn't do anything this last month, and really like letting those fallow periods be important and valued, I think is really important. Other question?
If they're online.
Okay. Yeah, they will be. These two classes are both online classes. I'm hoping to be able to offer some in-person workshops in the fall. In the spring. Yeah, so how'd this work for you all? Was this helpful information? What was people's favorite things? Favorite thing to learn or hear about or be reminded of maybe?
Hi, this is Kathy. It was very helpful for me to hear from other people that their practices also ebb and flow, not only necessarily with the seasons, but with our own individual energies and life paths and what comes up in our lives in general. And that's okay. And beating ourselves up over it is just another form of self-psychic attack. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for mentioning that, Kathy.
Well, I don't do enough to protect my heart, so thank you for that reminder. All right, then. If there's no other questions, we'll wrap up. We have one more hour of sessions, and then we have closing ritual at 5:30. I hope you'll all join us. Karen, thank you again so much for this really informative session.
Oh, I'm so glad it was helpful. I love doing this work, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So
wonderful.
All right.